If you crack first, Dave, it won't make you any less of a man.
I'm nowhere near cracking.
Neither am I, my friend.
Dave. And oh, Matthew, what is it now? For God's sake, no one's smoking, okay? But nothing! You know what we need around here is an anti-whining ordinance. So just sip your sniveling little lip and all your skinny ass out of.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. Now, yesterday I wasn't certain if this was an April Fool's joke, but it appears to be serious, this DC Comics round robin tournament that's going on. Now, there was one pitch among all of them, and there are some very bad pitches in this round robin tournament, a bunch of stuff you would never want to publish. But one is getting all the headlines, and that is Justice League Queer. Talked about it a little bit on the channel yesterday when Perch and myself kind of went over the entire bracket, talked about our favorite winners, which ones we think we'd want to vote for. And I thought I would bring in Joe Corallo, comic book writer, award-winning editor, to talk about Justice League Queer. Now, Joe, if the viewers don't know this, you are a proud queer creator, and I believe that you have supported queer projects in the past.
Oh, absolutely. I've participated in queer projects. My first published comics work was Geeks Out Presents Power, which debuted during FlameCon in 2014, which I collaborated on a story with Sam Johns, who is now dating James Tynan.
And the writer of the Punchline backup story.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
All right, Joe, I got to ask you, has the entire LGBTQ plus community voted you in to be the spokesperson, or are these just your own opinions?
These are strictly my own opinions.
Okay, so you're not speaking for everybody, but this is just from your point of view as somebody that's supported representation within comic books, somebody that's been published and published things of these in this niche category.
And I have hired and worked with queer creators before. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So what are your thoughts on Justice League Queer? I personally, it seems like an odd choice for a name to have a Justice League team that would be segregated by sexuality, but that's just my initial impression of looking at it. Justice League Queer seems like an odd name.
Sure. I'll tell you, I can't say names, but I was on the phone with the comics creator when I saw this round robin pop up, and I'm looking through and I'm telling this person, like, oh, these are the titles. And I was like, JLQ. At that point, I had no idea what it was titled. I just saw JLQ. And this person on the phone with me goes, what JLQ? What's that? Like Justice League Queer? and then lo and behold, that's what it is. We agreed that was not the best title. And then upon further investigation, so I initially thought, oh, they're going to dump a bunch of the prominent queer characters. That's not the case, because it very specifically says in the description that it is 8 young queer heroes. So, my initial thought was like, if you put like Wonder Woman, Midnighter, Apollo, Poison Ivy, Constantine, Catwoman on like a team, that's a heavy hitting team.
You have a good lineup.
Yeah, you could do a lot of damage with that kind of lineup. But I'm like, so young characters, so I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, so are these going to be all new characters? Is it going to be a mix? I guess you could use Ginny Hex, Bunker, Jess Chambers, Stitch from the Teen Titans Academy that we read and talked about the other week. If you haven't checked out that video, go check it out. And so it's like, okay, there's a handful that I can name off the top of my head. Maybe there's some more that already exist, but I'm like, okay, this is probably going to be a mix of like a couple or so characters that already exist. Maybe some of the characters from Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad, if they're young. I don't know what their definition of young is here. So like, okay, and they're fighting monsters. All right. I don't Is it like is this queer specific monsters? Is there some sort of, is this specifically targeting queer people, which would be the impetus to get them all to come together to do this? I don't. It's baffling, and how baffling it is reflected on Twitter when you look at the votes for all of these. It's got about twice as many votes compared to the vast majority of the others in this DC Roundup bracket. And it is getting ratioed into oblivion. It's got more quote tweets than likes, and you never want to be in a position where you got more quote tweets than likes.
I've seen people championing, we need a Justice League queer, but I've also heard a lot of people, within the LGBTQ plus community saying this is pandering. I don't want corporate sign off, on my culture. And it feels like a lot of times maybe this is what's kind of going on, where DC Comics is trying to, is cash in the right word for Pride Month?
Yeah, no, it sounds, it comes off weird. It comes off derivative. Why would they call themselves Justice League Queer? Why wouldn't they go by another name?
Justice League Pride just on itself would be a better name. But maybe having their own team name.
Yeah, but it's like, why be derivative to the Justice League? That doesn't, it doesn't seem to make much sense. There's there's a whole, like, we could just go on and on about all this weird stuff associated with this. Like, why not create your own team? Why all queer characters? Why, are they all queer? I don't know. This is weird. Like, I guess they said specifically they're 8 queer members, so sure, but I don't understand why they're together. Why, like, is this event going to be the origin story? Or are we getting thrown into a comic where they already all exist together? Is this going to be a weird, cringy sort of thing where they're fighting and then other queer heroes like pop in as like mentors, or like Batwoman like flies in to like give a thumbs up and be like, you're all doing great? Like, I don't know what to expect here. Is the creative team going to be queer? Because if you're doing this and then you roll out a team that is reflective of that, because we don't know what who are on the teams, then that creates another layer of potential backlash because of the expectations that are being set up.
Well, speaking of creators, there's been a creator that's essentially been doing this for quite some time. He used to work for Bleeding Cool. I think Keanu Reeves, he said Keanu Reeves came in and took his Kickstarter money, and now basically DC Comics is moving in to take his pitch. He's the dude from Bleeding Cool.
Sure, no. Joe Glass has been doing successful Kickstarters for a while. The Pride got picked up by Comixology Originals. It's going to be available through Dark Horse in an omnibus format. Yeah, I mean, he's been doing these things for a while. Queer comics aren't new. I mean, Alison Bechdel's been doing them for decades. Howard Cruz, Queer Comics. The title was put out through Kitchen Sink Press over 40 years ago now. So what was it? Tales from the Closet from Ivan Velez, who went on to do Blood Syndicate and Ghost Rider. I mean, these are all things that have been around for a while. So he's certainly continuing that. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've seen, Batwoman was pretty successful for a while there. We've seen these queer characters before in superhero settings. So I don't know why specifically this specifically young queer characters, and no one's coming out to say how that's ageist, but I mean, give it time. But I guess, you do have books like Young Avengers, which were pretty successful. You see that the MCU is setting up all the Young Avengers characters now, so maybe DC's like, oh, we got to get in on this because Marvel's setting up all those characters.
But I don't even think Marvel would name a comic book Queer Avengers. I think they would come up with a new name.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't. With Young Avengers was a sizable amount of them were queer characters, and they were just Young Avengers. I think Young Avengers is also a stupid name because why would you call yourself Young Avengers? It's weird. But the Legion of Superheroes were all teenagers, but they didn't call themselves the Teenage Legion of Superheroes. Does this mean there aren't queer characters in these other books? Why wouldn't there be a queer Robin in the Robin's book? Why wouldn't there be a queer character in any of these other pitches? Some of them certainly have room for that. So when you set it up like this, it does come off like you're pitting people against each other, like you're pitting,
that is
queer...
certainly evident in Twitter.
Yeah, no, Twitter certainly seems to have caught on to that, and have mentioned that it seems like you're taking characters of a specific background and pitting them against each other in a poll like this instead of making those decisions on your own, and that's
if DC
been a problem.
really wanted to publish this book, I can't imagine they couldn't find a creator to do it, a good creator with a high profile. Why would they even need to put it to a poll?
Sure. I mean, it comes off like they don't have the confidence in the product to justify putting it out.
Or they want some controversy to get some publicity on the poll.
Yeah, I don't quite understand it. These votes, I mean, ultimately, most of these votes are going to be, in the 20, 30,000 vote range. Those are not going to translate to sales, vote to sale. You're going to get like a fraction of the sales from the people who are actually voting, because keeping in mind, a huge chunk of the people voting are not getting what they want. So
plus all these quote tweets are tweeting this information out to people that don't read comics that maybe want to support or not support the idea of JLQ.
Sure, but the collective you might look at these and maybe there's a few ideas in here that you're like, oh, this sounds cool. Swamp Thing sounds cool. Zatanna, the Green Lanterns one. There's a few others that stand out as being pretty good ideas. If you get excited about an idea and then it doesn't win, a lot of people, their response is to get soured by the whole thing and not want to be involved in any.
Because the process wasn't fun for them.
Yeah, so you could end up turning off you're going to turn off more potential customers for these books by getting them worked up and upset that their book isn't coming out.
So purchase idea in your mind of, hey, just say you're going to do these 16 comics and whoever wins gets illustrated by Jim Lee or some superstar artist. That way everyone gets the book they wanted, but the winner gets the big name artist.
That's one way to do it. Another way is this should be DC Showcase, and you do an anthology. Each issue is like an
quarterly anthology,
and then
4 stories.
Yeah, and you can write in, and whoever gets the most write-ins or whatever, the demand is there. This one will get, a series or a mini series or something like that. That works too, and you can actually put those ideas out there and people can make an educated decision. I can't make a decision based on this. I don't even know who the creative teams are. I mean, it could be like everyone votes on this one thing and they're like, oh, I guess nobody wanted the Jeff Johns Jim Lee comic. It's like, oh, come on, like what is this? So
what's interesting is there's also been a lot of outcry of people saying that like DC's like conspiratorial accusations against DC, that they pitched JLQ against Robins, because who would ever vote against the Robins? People have said they wanted a Robins team up book where you just had all the Robins get together, but admittedly the pitch for that one is really awful. It's like them eating brunch together in Dick Grayson's apartment. It's not exactly the Robins book I think anyone ever wanted to read. I certainly didn't want to, just reading the solicitation. But do you think DC were intentionally sabotaging JLQ?
I'm always with Occam's razor, and the simplest answer is usually the correct one, that there just wasn't thought to it. It was just, oh, let's just put them up. All right, these sound good, go. I and so I don't think there's any intentional urge to sabotage or anything like that. What I do think is some of the timing is off here. They just started a Robin solo book. So then to announce Robin's, it's like, is Robin's going to have the same kind of legs when you just started doing a Robin solo book? There's stuff like that to keep in mind. You just rolled out, the Green Lantern book that Jeff Thorne's writing, and now you have a Green Lantern pitch in there. You have Yara Flor. You're trying to do stuff with Yara Flor. You're trying to do stuff with Wonder Woman. You're trying to do stuff with
Nubia,
Hippolyta in Justice League. So it's like there's 4 Amazons kind of already running around.
Don Troy and Justice, or Teen Titans.
5. Yeah, Donna Troy is in Teen Titans Academy. So why is there another last Amazon book? Like, that's not a good time for this pitch. It seems all over the place. There's so many characters still on the shelf. The 7 Soldiers of Victory. Like, I could rattle off all sorts. Hawkman. There's a lot.
JSA.
JSA, Justice Society. Bring in the Wesley Dodds Sandman Mystery Theater. Like, there's
everybody
so many...
wants a Tim Drake series.
Yeah.
Can we introduce him with a new name?
Hawk and Dove. I mean, there's all these characters here you could be doing stuff with, and it's a mix of
Firestorm.
Yeah, it's a mix of books that have already kind of started. Swamp Thing. We didn't have a Swamp Thing ongoing for a while. We just got a Swamp Thing, either longer limited series or ongoing, and you're throwing out another Swamp Thing idea. It's like, what are you doing?
I don't know what they're doing. A lot of the pitches are admittedly very poor, but if DC Comics wanted controversy and wanted to pit some fans against each other, I think they picked the perfect storm. Justice League Queer versus Robins. It appears that Robins are going to win the day, at least in the first round, and move on. I don't know. I'll give you the last word on Justice League Queer and your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know who the creative team is. Not knowing the creative teams for any of these,
not knowing the characters
and the characters, this all for all of these makes it difficult. I don't know what they're planning on getting out of it. I don't like if all this drama happens and they announce that they're going to do half these books anyway. I mean,
it's apparent. It's 16 ideas they didn't have confidence in to publish.
Yeah, I mean, but social media and a lot of places have a pretty short memory. So even if there's drama and hurt feelings and all that, I think a lot of this will blow over if, there's good books out. So, ultimately, I think this is a needless headache on themselves, but it's not the end of the world. It's just, it's just some odd comic choices that we might see, and who even knows if we will. So, or when we will. There's no announcement on when these books would be coming out.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.